This whole pedo thing, it's like, is it really pedophilia? I don't want to be the one that has to say it, but I guess I'm being forced to say it. It's not really pedophilia, okay? They weren't trafficking 5-year-olds. It was like they were technically not legal. Big difference, in my opinion. I know that's a controversial take, but that's not really the issue there, okay? The issue is not that they were barely legal teens, which is what it is. It's horrendous. It's awful. It's pedophilia. Okay, relax. No, the issue is that Epstein is a Jewish spy probably working with Israel. That's the dilemma there. He's working with Israeli intelligence.
Buddy Michael here. Today's video, I'm going to explain how our enemies are using anti-Semitism to discredit a sensible nationalist movement. Let's go. Okay, so recently I've been doing a lot of studying into nationalism, and because our country is such a mess, people are naturally becoming more nationalist, especially with all the migration and especially the illegal migration and the demographic change. For the negative, people are becoming more nationalistic, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It only becomes a bad thing when people venture into extremism, such as Nazi ideology. Okay, so if somebody is an ethno-nationalist and they're doing it from a sensible point of view in terms of looking after their own people, that's fine. But when people veer off into extremism, neo-Nazism, that's when we got a problem. And the interesting thing is, I studied a lot of these nationalist channels and stuff, and I thought it was mad. Every single nationalist influencer is obsessed with Israel and the Jews. And it put me off because I can't take these people seriously when they're not just obsessed with the Jews, but they're like complimentary of the German painter and the second century Germans. And what I think has happened, and this is going to be unpopular because I believe a lot of people have fallen for this, but the truth has to be spoken. I believe nefarious enemies have promoted all these theories of the Jews for two reasons. One, they actually hate the Jews, and two, it subverts our culture, because the ultimate enemy, especially in our history of our country, is the second century Germans. So if they can subvert a sensible nationalist movement with people who simp for the second century Germans, it will completely discredit any nationalist movement. And this all serves to destabilize our country further, because what our enemies don't want is a sensible, patriotic nationalist movement. So what do? Push Jewish conspiracy theories, push revisionism of World War II. So now, instead of having sensible patriots, you have whack jobs who go on about the Jews and who simp for the National Socialists, who are the ultimate enemy. And I saw a post on Twitter that sums it up perfectly. And this post may not be absolutely perfectly correct. It may not be coming straight from Russia. But I do believe Russia, Iran, China will be behind a lot of this stuff. Because obviously Iran, you got the Islamic hatred of Jews. And then the Russians and Chinese are using the conspiracy theories to cause division amongst the people. And I'm going to read out this post here. And it says, this is the Kremlin's preferred method of destabilizing Western democracies. Inject anti-Semitism into right-wing movements, watch parties fracture internally, never fire a single bullet. The FSB has entire departments dedicated to this. Okay, so look at what happened in Britain in this week. Restore and Advance share a lot of similarities. Yes, Advance are a little bit too civ-natty, but because they've injected all these anti-Semitic tropes into the far-right nationalist movement, people have associated that with Restore. Even though Rupert Lowe and Connor Tomlinson are actually sensible nationalists, they've become subverted. Now we've got all this internal disunity and destabilization with everybody arguing, oh, are Restore racist? Oh, they hardcore ethno-Nazis? Oh, the civ-nats. See, this is how the Jewish conspiracy theory causes the destabilization. So that's one point. Another thing they'll say is America shouldn't protect Israel. What that actually means is remove American presence from the Middle East so Russia and Iran can fill the vacuum. That's not America first, that's Russia first. And this is what I've been saying. Most of these nationalist people aren't Britain first or America first. because they believe all these Jewish conspiracies, they anti-Jews first. That's all they care about. So they will even simp for our enemies. How many nationalist people this week, whether it be Nick Fuentes in America or the British ones, are upset about the Iran war, even though Iran self-proclaimed call us the great Satan. They hate us. And they also simp for Russia, who the Russian leadership, Dugin, who is Putin's brain, they see the Anglo-Saxon as the ultimate enemy. But who do our nationalist people simp for? Oh, they love Iran. They love simping for Russia, but they speak out against the true British and American interests. So they're actually pawns of the enemy without realizing it. And the next bit you always hear online is the Goyim are fighting Jewish wars. This talking point was being pushed by Russian state television in Persian, Arabic and English simultaneously the day after the Iran strikes. So this person is not ahead of the curve, she's on the distribution list. So what this actually means is, when they say, oh, the Goyim, you're fighting Jewish wars and all this stuff, this is to discourage Western people and nations from fighting for their countries because Russia, China, Iran want to get influence over the Middle East and the world. And this is what Dugin has said as well, is they want to promote isolationism. So a lot of the things you'll hear, a lot of Americans and British people is, oh, we can't get involved in the world's problems. We need to just focus on our own country. Now, I've said before, I half agree, 100% we need to focus on our own country first. But if we refuse to get involved in the world, if we let Iran just carry on building nukes, that's not going to end well for us. This is exactly what they want. They want us staying away from their evil. You know, Russia would love to control Venezuela. They hate the fact that Donald Trump removed the Venezuelan leadership, Maduro. They hate the fact that Donald Trump went in and smashed up the Iranian leadership because that was their ally. China hates the fact that Donald Trump is telling Britain not to get rid of the Chagos Islands because what's happening? Every time we give away the Chagos Islands, we don't get involved in Iran. We let Venezuela do what they got to do for Russia's interests. When we let Russia and China take control of Africa and then flood our continents with African migration, this serves BRICS and it harms Western domination. Because what BRICS want, they want a Eurasian communist empire. And they want the Western, liberal, Anglo-Saxon, Christ-following nations to be destroyed so that they can be the global hegemony. So instead of America and Britain and sensible parts of Europe, not the EU commie Europe, but Europe having a global hegemony and being the superpower, they want to subvert, destroy all our countries and turn BRICS into the new superpower, mainly China and Russia. And this is why I am encouraging people, do not follow these people who are who claim to be nationalists, but they're actually not nationalists. You know, the likes of Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, a lot of British ones as well. Anybody speaking about isolationist, anybody obsessed with the Jews, anybody simping for our enemies, do not follow them. They have been subverted. They're actually puppets of our enemies and they don't even realise it. And if you want to realise just how a lot of these are absolute wrong-uns. America, the main one is Nick Fuentes. And look at these couple of clips and ask yourself, is this the sort of guy you want to follow? Because I know he's very popular. Check out these clips.
Okay. Guy here, hang out with children. Well, you know, they're hotter.
Based. Let's fucking go. That's why we love him. That's why we love this guy.
So as you can see, it's sort of the horseshoe effect. He's there, the far right and the far left. You know, Nick Fuentes, far right, Destiny, far left. Both degenerates, both causing division, both promoting a load of rubbish, and they've come together for their hatred of the Jews. But as you can see, they're both wrong-uns in my eyes. And they are perfect puppets for our enemies. Moronic, juvenile, degenerate, clearly degenerate people who have corrupted our young people through politics. And you have the same in Britain. There's certain prominent people who have similar views, and I've done my research, and there's some hardcore nationalist neo-Nazi types who, from my research, you probably wouldn't want to leave your teenage daughters around them. And this is why they have been suspended from the BNP. I can't confirm this is 100% correct, but they're similar to Nick Fuentes. They're wrong uns, and you want nothing to do with these people, but sadly these people are very popular at the moment. And if you notice, all the Jew haters, they're whack jobs. Nick Fuentes is a whack job. Candace Owens is a whack job. Tucker Carlson is a whack job. Steve Laws, Zoomer historian. Mark Collette. They're all whack jobs. And the interesting thing is, they simp for, or they hate the Jews, and they love Russia. And that's why I believe that it's probably coming from Russia to destabilize the West. And they do two things. They hate the Jews, therefore disrespect nationalism or subvert nationalism, and then they promote Russia, because they'll go on about the Jews all the time. Oh, I hate the Jews, but then they'll go, oh, Russia, because Dugin is a big influencer. And I've seen a lot of these influencers reposting Dugin tweets saying how bad Zionism and the Jews are, and then also saying, oh, we should be more like Russia. So you can see these people have been subverted and they don't even know it. Okay, so that's the point of my video today. And this is a very complex thing, but I believe I'm generally always ahead of the curve. And it probably won't be very popular, because it's very popular at the moment to dislike the Jews and simp for Russia, despite the fact I believe that Russia is actually our enemy, 100%. BRICS alliance, they are our enemy. They hate the Anglo-Saxon, just as the Iranian call us the Great Satan. Whereas Israel are just a neutral state. I'm not obsessed with the Jews. I certainly do not hate them, which comes from conspiracy theories. It comes from religious hatred. And I certainly am not obsessed with them in terms of, I am not one of those who believes that they're God's chosen people and God gave them the land. I'm not one of those. So I'm not simping for Israel on any grounds. I just see them as any other nation, and I'll treat them and try to look at things objectively. And I do not see them as any great enemy. All these theories about Mossad controlling Epstein, they're just theories. There's no truth to them. Unless you've got evidence, they're just theories made up by nefarious forces. And you're not being educated. When you watch a documentary or read a book by someone, you're not educating yourself. You're being propagandized. Okay? And that's what I learnt myself. You know, when I got into certain vegetarian movements, because I saw the abuse to animals, I didn't want to partake in it. So I became vegetarian. And then I saw some other ones about the environment. And I realized whilst I was in right to be vegetarian on the animal cruelty basis, a lot of the environmental stuff was vegan propaganda. And when I saw a documentary on the environment stuff, a little later when I did more research, I realized, hold on, I wasn't being educated, I was being propagandized. And when you watch these Jewish documentaries, when you read books, these people have got an agenda. They're not teaching you the truth. Like religion. Religion has no interest in teaching spiritual truth. They're there to brainwash you into Jesus is God, or Muhammad is the final messenger, or we're the chosen people. They're not interested in the truth. They're interested in the narrative from their religious teachings. Okay, so that's the point of my video today. I wanted to put it out there. Like the video, share it with as many people as you can to stop them being radicalized into this craziness and ending up like Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes wrong ones. Okay, subscribe if you're new. Share it, as I said, and God bless everybody today. Goodbye.